Sponsored by Wheeler Health's Better Choice program. More at wheelerhealth.org.
Helping you lead a healthier life. This is CURES.
Welcome to the CURES Show, where we explore the cutting edge of wellness with credible sources for our mind, body, and spirit. As we begin a new year, it's time to get a little mental health refresh. And Dr. Saunders is a psychologist at the Institute of Living. And she's joining us now with what I think are some really doable habits that if we actually do them, we can really have much better mental health in 2025. So thanks for being with us, Dr. Saunders.
Hi, Kara. Happy New Year. I'll be saying that for a little while still. Yes. And yes, we are looking at taking a bit of a change of the script instead of like New Year's resolutions, which are always like, lose weight, exercise more. Not that sometimes eating better and moving your body isn't important, but to flip the script a little bit and talk about this as guidelines, right? Yeah. So we're going to talk about 4 guidelines here. And what I like to remind people is that even if you sort of fall off the wagon, every day is an opportunity to step back in and say, you know what, I'm going to do this for myself in the next hour, or for this morning, or for this afternoon, or for this evening, or for today. To step back in and give yourself the grace of positive change.
Yeah, which I think is good, because I think in recent years, myself and maybe other people can relate to this, have kind of shied away from resolutions. They seem like whipping ourselves, with undoable things, or maybe even things that don't matter as much as what we want. And if we want just to have more grace in our life, more positivity, a better sense of mental health, these are things we can do, and we can do them in steps. And number 1, you say, we really start with ourselves, and that is focusing on positive self-talk. If we took a moment and listened to the script of what's going through our head sometimes, you might be shocked what we say to ourselves, right?
Right. I mean, the old adage, like, the angel and the devil, right? That devil per se, that negative voice in our head, and it's generally our own voice. Sometimes it's, you feel like, oh, that was my father's voice, or that was my mother's voice, or that was my sister's voice, whoever. But that negative voice is often your own voice. And it really is coming to the point of centering yourself and accepting love and positivity. I'm deserving of love and positivity. You're deserving of love and positivity. Each of us is deserving of love and positivity. And the words that we say to ourselves matter.
Okay, so let's just talk about how we even notice. How do we take that step and become aware of our self-talk, and then maybe flip it? The guideline you say is, would you say that to your best friend? Is that how you would talk to them?
Right. I mean, all this negative self-talk really creates doubt and fuels anxiety. And so I think that it does start with identifying that that's what's going on. I think sometimes for people, they're so used to that, like, you're so stupid, I can't believe you did that, or, you eat so terribly, you really don't ever care about yourself. That negative voice in our head that can be quite pervasive really just causes us damage. So it starts with identifying that voice in your head first, and start to replace that self-criticism with self-compassion. Now, that doesn't mean you have to say, I'm the best person in the whole world, or I'm the most beautiful, or I'm the smartest, whatever. It doesn't have to be that extreme, right? It doesn't have to be from one to the other. It can be, I'm going to do my best today. Okay. Or I'm going to try in the next hour to wipe away any negative self-talk, right? So it's not about going from one extreme to another. It's about starting to identify that negative voice, quiet that negative voice, and then step into a little more self-compassion and grace.
Yeah, and this is actually it's not just being nice. I know this is a whole field of psychology. I took some courses in mindfulness-based self-compassion, which people might know MBSR, but this is the idea that psychology tells us, like, just even taking a moment of saying, all right, what do I need right now? Or trying to treat ourselves. Maybe you didn't have the best parents, but parenting ourselves the way that maybe we would have liked to have been parent now that we're adults. This is not just woo-woo, I'm being kind. It really makes a difference.
It absolutely makes a difference, right? The field's called positive psychology. And you brought up mindfulness, and I like to remind people what mindfulness is. So mindfulness is being in the moment non-judgmentally. So being in the moment non-judgmentally. Mindfulness is a different concept or different practice than meditation. Meditation is a practice. It's learning a set of skills around quieting your mind. So we start with mindfulness. It's being in the moment. You can use your five senses, whatever you need to do, right? What do I smell? What do I hear? What do I taste? What do I feel? I always miss a sense. But it's being in the moment non-judgmentally. So it's not judging. You should be walking faster on your walk. You should have walked yesterday and you didn't, right? It's being in the moment and not being judgmental.
When we have those negative feelings, I wonder, I've heard that before where, we can be aware, and that would be one step, just being aware of, okay, I'm saying these horrible things that's related to this feeling of anxiousness. I've heard if we just observe the feeling, most feelings only last for about 90 seconds. Is that true?
Yeah, so it's you're feeling really kind of negative or irritable or heavy, like emotionally heavy, and you just realize that you snapped at your spouse, or you snapped at your child, or you snapped at your coworker, and it's that momentary reflection. What is going on for me right now? Why am I feeling so sad, depressed, irritable, emotionally heavy, whatever it is? Why am I feeling this way? And sometimes you don't know, right? But it's sitting with the feeling, realizing that it has some meaning, it's giving you a message, and then allowing it to pass, right? That's the beautiful thing, is that it likely will pass. And if not, then it's taking some steps to help you move through that negative mood state. But negative mood states in and of themselves are not necessarily bad unless they're going on for long and protracted periods of time and making it so that it's hard to function.
Okay. So number 2, as a guideline for 2025 for some better mental health, stop comparing ourselves. And I think we know this. I think most of us who are moms tell our kids, don't compare yourself to others, but yet we all seem to do it. And you say it is the thief of all joy.
Comparison is the thief of all joy. And we talked a lot about this in December, especially on the Great Day segments around, there are no Hallmark families, and don't compare yourself to everyone else's beautiful, holiday gathering or perfect family, or, children that are achieving all these great things, right? We all do it. I catch myself doing it too. And I have to stop myself and say, everyone has imperfections. Every family has imperfections. Every individual has imperfections. We all have imperfections. And it's just a matter of focusing on what I'm doing, right? So instead of comparing yourself, it's understanding that everyone's journey is unique. I have parents say to me all the time, well, my child missed a semester. They had to take a medical leave and now they're off track. They are on their own track, right? It's not being on track or off track. You're on your own track. You're on your own journey. You're on the right track if that's where it leads you to your next step. And so it's really, again, giving yourself that grace to not compare yourself to everyone around you, because it only serves to make you feel inadequate.
Mm-hmm. Or I think my mother used to say, compare yourself to others, you'll either be vain or bitter. I'm sure we can find some folks who have it worse than us too, which can help us focus on what we can appreciate. But sometimes we do look at folks and we're like, gosh, I really want to achieve that. Is that a useful comparison? You say, then we can use people's success as inspiration, but be careful not to use it to measure your own worth.
Right. So if you know that someone else is doing something, they're taking on a new habit or doing something that's helpful for them. You can say, wow, that's a goal that I'd like to take on for myself. Or, yeah, that's something that I'd like to achieve for myself. I'd like to go back to school and take some classes, or, I'd like to volunteer somewhere. So we can use that if it helps us with motivation. What you have to do is catch yourself if it fuels your inadequacy, if it makes you feel like I'm really just, I'm just a terrible person because I haven't, I never finished my degree, or I'm not working enough hours, or I've been wanting to volunteer for 2 years and I haven't done anything like that. So if you're using it to fuel kind of negativity or negative self-talk, it's not going to be that helpful. If you can use those goals to step into things, one baby step at a time, then it's helpful.
Okay. And we really need to focus on our health, because not only we can hear the saying that without health we have no wealth, but also without our physical health, mental health is not going to be easily achievable.
The mind and body are very closely connected. And honestly, that is one of the few good things I think that came out of COVID. The COVID era is what people realized is that, okay, I might be physically healthy, but if I'm emotionally isolated, I'm miserable, right? And so understanding how closely the mind and body are connected, and realizing that you need to take care of your emotional health, just like you need to take care of your physical health, and doing those things that help you physically, because without physical health, there is no emotional well-being. And as we said, vice versa. So it's understanding the connection and then taking steps that make you feel worthy of doing good things for yourself. And, it's easy to say it's about sleep and nutrition. Those are always the low-hanging fruit that we go after. They are extremely important. But it's also about, and it's not about revamping your entire diet. It might be, I'm going to include one new vegetable in my diet this week. Or, you know what, I wasn't able to walk much last week because it's gotten very cold. So I'm going to, bundle up a little more and go out on a short walk during my lunch hour. Whatever it is you can do, it's taking that step into well-being.
And it really could be just a step. The research, correct me if I'm wrong, actually shows when we begin more slowly, just do something that we can do even on our worst day. That's how we build a habit, rather than so many times people fail with resolutions, right? I mean, you see everyone at the gym right now, and in a couple of weeks, you're not going to see them all there because you promised yourself, I'm going to do A, B, C, and then something happens when the motivation is gone.
Right. And so, and again, I don't want to buy into that kind of black and white mentality. Like, you join a gym and then you miss going to the gym for 2 weeks and you're like, oh, it's worthless. No, yeah. You have an opportunity to go to the gym one time next week, if that's what you want to do, whatever your goals are. And it's also doing other things and really looking at some of our negative health behaviors, right? Are we over snacking as a way to kind of fill some emotional void?
Yeah.
Are we using alcohol as a way to cope? Are we using marijuana or other substances as a way to wipe away emotional pain? So really looking at that. And I'm not even talking about going from an all or nothing approach.
Yeah.
The focus in a lot of substance use research these days is actually about harm reduction. It's about reducing, right? If you're someone that had two glasses of wine a day, start cutting back to one, right? So harm reduction, it's moving yourself in a direction. It doesn't have to be one extreme or the other.
All at once. So just take a baby step toward where you're going, get used to that, and then maybe you're going to move more. We talk a lot about just the other folks in our life. I think sometimes we get in the habit of blaming these things we think are not in our control, because maybe you have a boss that's harsh, or you're having problems in your relationships. But one thing you have control of, you say we need to let go of grudges and negative people in our life. That's probably easier said than done. So how do we start that?
Right. And again, I want to move away from black and white thinking and thinking I'm going to cut myself off from anyone that's ever negative in my life. That's just not realistic, right? There might be like seriously toxic people or people that are, abusive or borderline abusive. That's a different scenario than what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is stepping back from the people that are more negative. And if it's a supervisor or manager or someone that you can't totally get away from, it might be then moving yourself towards people that are more positive as an offset. Harboring resentment really can cause yourself a lot of toxic feelings. And so, not wanting to build that resentment and anger all the time. And for the most part, we're not even talking about the whole act of forgiveness. Someone has wronged you. So often I think what people do is they hold on to that anger. And then because of that, they're actually more angry at the other person, and the person doesn't even realize it, right? You're holding on to the anger. And so forgiveness is not about forgiving the other person. It's about giving yourself the emotional space to let things go.
Yeah, it's right. Resentment is the poison we drink, thinking it's hurting someone else. So there's ways of doing that. In fact, I want to dive into that a little bit more. We're going to take a quick word from our sponsor and come back.
Struggling with gambling? Wheeler Health's Better Choice program offers personalized support and treatment to help you regain control. Visit WheelerHealth.org to learn more and take the first step towards recovery today.
All right, and so we're back talking to Dr. Laura Saunders, who is our psychologist. She likes to call herself a middle-of-the-road psychologist from the Premier Institute of Living. And I like that because I think so many times we try and do these things, even for those of us who are very aware, maybe we've gone to therapy, and you're still struggling with some of the same things. And you can get quite harsh on yourself, like, how long am I going to have to deal with this? So let's just say it's something you've been dealing with for a long time, maybe anxiety or some bad habits around emotional eating. How do we approach that so that we can make progress and feel good about ourselves without getting so-called cured, because maybe that doesn't happen all at once?
I say this all the time, but I think it bears repeating. The number one step in managing any of this or making change is actually identifying either the negative emotional state or the negative or unhelpful behavior. It really starts with identifying what's going on. And that is self-reflection. I think what is great about the new year is it does cause people to engage in a little bit more self-reflection. And that self-reflection is that first step to saying, you know what? I need more positive people in my life. So I'm going to look one person in the eye today and say hello directly to them. I mean, again, it doesn't have to be monumental things. It can be little things. It's, going to your local, you feel isolated, right? The Surgeon General's come out with this whole thing on social isolation and how toxic it is for people emotionally and physically. We've done segments on social isolation and how bad it is. So it's doing little things. It's going to your local library. I know not everyone has money and finances are tight, but finding that opportunity to do something that's a little outside of your comfort zone. Every town has all sorts of events. Some of them are for a fee. Some of them are free. There's a youth and family services. There's all sorts of community events in most every town. And most residents get that, that flyer either at the beginning of the month or the beginning of the quarter or the season, and doing something that's a little bit outside of your comfort zone. I'm going to take this chair yoga class at my community center. Or if you're a senior, I'm going to look to go to a couple of senior events that they're hosting at the community center. So it's doing something small, something measurable, and taking that step and getting yourself there. It'd be beautiful if you want to invite a friend to do it with you. But even doing something on your own, just going to the library, not even for a reason, just going to the library, taking a book out, spending some time there, the act of leaving, getting dressed or showering, getting dressed, leaving your house, being somewhere else, having different things in your view, can do wonders for how you feel about yourself.
So let's talk about some practical things in the second half of the show here about, little parts. I like to think of my day in segments, maybe because I'm a news reporter and everything is timed to the minute, and I could tell you what I'm doing by the second most days. But let's start with the morning routine. I think for so many of us, you might be waking up rushed, overwhelmed, or in kind of a low state. That's a hard way to wake up. And we've got so many things to manage in modern life. A morning routine, I love knowing what people's morning routines are, and I know you have a good one that I feel like is practical, of a few things you do that maybe we could steal from you. But let's just say we want to, start some positive mental health in the morning. What would you tell us to do from your side of the couch?
So it really is just a little bit of mindfulness practice, right? It's a little bit of taking some clear, deep breaths. I'm at peace. I'm okay. I am safe. I am healthy. I am happy might be too much. I am okay. So finding a mantra of 3 or 4 things, taking a deep breath in between, that's kind of a mindfulness moment. And that is very grounding for people. It doesn't take, you don't have to get up 20 minutes early. You can take a few minutes, however you want to do it, but it's that grounding that you need in the morning. You know, it's bad for all of us if we're running late and then we're rushed and then we're, you know, that kind of grind just sets a tone for the day. And then and sometimes that happens, right? It happens to all of us. You need to do that reset at some point in the day to sort of bring yourself back down.
Okay. So, I mean, right, even in the shower, just making a conscious effort, you're not going to think about what you have to do next, but that mindfulness, you mentioned our senses. We could engage, like, what do I feel? What do I see? That could be something everyone's probably taking a shower in the morning, I would think. So you're saying it could be habit stacking. You're going to maybe say these nice things, do some mindfulness just in your shower, and that could be something that would actually be transformative for your day.
Yeah, I mean, you can eat mindfully, right? You can, if you're someone that has a little bit of breakfast, whether it's, you know, a bowl of cereal, you can eat cereal mindfully. You can be careful about the amount of cereal that you put in your spoon, that the spoon goes into your mouth. You can feel the coolness of the spoon and the taste of the cereal or oatmeal, whatever you're having, you know, pulling the spoon out of your mouth, putting your spoon back in the bowl, right? There's ways to do things mindfully that sort of slows you down and brings you back into the moment. And again, it's that non-judgmental piece.
Yeah. So taking some things that we're already doing. You mentioned basic sleep, basic nutrition. We don't have to spend a lot of time on that, but if you're someone just eating a lot of processed foods or skipping breakfast and having these, you know, anxious feelings because you've got no food in your system and just coffee, you know, you might want to make sure you at least have a protein bar and put some water next to your bed. Little things like that can actually shift your mood. And you always say moving a muscle changes a mood. So how important is it that we exercise, not just to lose weight, but for our mental health?
Move a muscle, change your mood, right? You need to do something active. And again, I'm not even talking about, you know, going from being a couch potato to high intensity aerobics, right? It's you're making yourself go on a 10-minute walk. You have to go to the grocery store and you're parking a little farther and making yourself walk in. It starts with the little things. Doing things most days, if not every day, most days. And again, it is super cold out right now. So, you know, not everyone wants to be outside, even though it's bright and sunny, it's cold, it's windy. So walk inside, you know, wherever you are, go to a mall, do something to be a little bit more active, invite a friend to do it with you. That's even better. It creates that sense of connection. And again, just because you wanted to go for a walk yesterday and you didn't do it, doesn't mean the whole week's a failure, right? Today's another day. Every day we have opportunities to do something good for ourselves. And you talk about, you know, scheduling. I talk about it in terms of like anchor events. Like, you know, for those people that are a little bit more isolated, they know they're going to go out to the grocery store in the afternoon. So, right, that's what motivates them to take a shower, to get dressed, do some laundry because they're going out to the grocery store. Whatever anchors you into your next step. And even if you were supposed to go to the grocery store yesterday and you never went, and now you feel like you need to go, but you're worried about having to talk to people or see people, you know, the grocery store is filled with people that are also just going about their business. So finding little ways to do things to shift up your comfort a little bit, and create some new habits.
For the reverse, for a lot of the busy moms out there who maybe feel guilty or there's not enough time in the day and there's so much rushing, how do we incorporate more stillness, and is that beneficial to our psyche?
That's a great point, because for a lot of people, especially I think moms and dads too, you know, they're juggling multiple role responsibilities. And sometimes you feel bad because you realize you can't be a good at your job and a good spouse and a good parent and a good sibling or daughter if you're taking care of older parents. But just focusing on one role at a time. So I'm going to spend these next 10 minutes and I'm just going to focus on being a good parent. And being a good parent just means giving your child a little bit of your time and attention, right? Time and attention are the two greatest gifts that we give our children. So it's doing something, and it doesn't have to go on for hours. It could be for 10 minutes, we're going to sit and read together, or we're going to eat a snack together, or, we're going to, if you're someone who's inclined to play video games, you and your child are going to play 10 minutes of video games together. if that, and as long as it's somewhat interactive.
No,
So
I love that
doing
you
things
say,
that create time and attention.
I love that you say, just being a good enough parent, because I think especially in the age of Instagram, we're all looking like, oh my gosh, the food has to have cute shapes, and we have to have this, and all 4 food groups in the lunchbox, and never eat this. And I mean, there's so many standards out there. We have to remember so much of it is usually online. It might be trying to sell you something. But as we come to the last couple minutes in the show, I love to, kind of have some takeaways, and maybe take a moment and invite the audience. Thank you if you stayed here this long. Thank you for supporting this work on wellness. We'd love for you to leave a review and subscribe to the podcast. If you're watching it on YouTube, definitely share it with a friend. But if we're going to invite maybe folks to do one thing, maybe just put one thing. I think the message I'm getting from you is don't try to do everything at once. So maybe we invite everyone, what's one thing you'd want to do? And it really has to start with ourself, right? Either our self-care or our that nasty roommate in our head, maybe our self-voice. But in your takeaway, if we want to think of one thing to work on, what's your advice?
If there's one thing that you're going to work on, we're going to start with the negative self-talk. We're going to start with identifying negative patterns, identifying that negative self-talk, and just being a little bit kinder and gentler to yourself. Give yourself the grace to make mistakes. Give yourself the grace to not always do things the best way possible. Take that first step and give yourself that grace.
Good advice. Good advice. Dr. Laura Saunders, we always appreciate your time. And we love that earlier you shared on Great Day, that was one of your resolutions. So even when you are a psychologist, for those who want to compare, you have things you're working on. We all have our things, right?
We all have things that we're working on. Me too.
Okay. Dr. Laura Saunders, psychologist at the Institute of Living. We really appreciate you being here. Thank you for tuning in. And of course, you can follow you on Instagram too, right? It's Dr.
Yep.
Laura. What's your handle?
It's Dr. Laura Saunders.
Yeah.
PsyD, I believe that's it.
PsyD, yes. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Laura. All right. Have a great day, everyone, and be well. Thanks for watching CURES.